We should start doing this a few minutes before the presentation.
Yeah. So.
No reason to not just chill out and be live.
Okay, we're live. Let me get everything paused.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're
we
here.
Live?
Yeah, leave it.
Do I need to do anything with this?
Nope, this is perfect. This is for me to check in with the chat. Okay. We're here.
Should I turn off the volume on this?
I think you're good. Hey guys, happy Tuesday.
Hi everyone, what's up?
How's it going? I'm gonna take this off, it's real hot. Oh man. Hope everyone had an awesome weekend.
Yeah.
So today we're kind of gonna do an at-home meetup. Anyone who's attended a Mosko meetup before in person knows that it's mostly just a big community hangout. We get everybody together. We usually buy everyone a beer. We don't have beers today, but Pete and I are gonna crack open a cold key lime. So if anyone wants to join us, feel free to crack open your own. Yes, it's the Ash Monster. It's me. I was in my helmet. Yeah, so we kind of want to go over the Basilisk Enduro touring kit with you guys today. So that's what I'm outfitted in here. I've got my jacket right over there that we'll put on.
I mean, I think the idea, like in terms of the meetup, usually like early in a meetup, we have like a gear moment where we're have all our gear on display and people come in and try stuff on and whatever, and then we kind of start the happy hour sometime partway through, and usually there's some snacks, and at the end we have a presentation. So today we're kind of following something roughly similar to that. But we're just going to focus on one piece of gear, which is the riding apparel first, and then we'll have an opportunity for other people to join us on the Zoom meeting, totally. And then we'll have our surprise guests. And so the whole thing is like, this is just an experiment. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that it would be cool for us to kind of feature something that we get a lot of questions about, which is our apparel. Obviously, we started business selling luggage, and now we are definitely well into the apparel scene. So we get lots of questions about it, and it's definitely super complex. Right?
It is, and this is like, I think one of the things that we have, selling apparel direct online only is really tricky. You know, with the meetups, we are traveling around the country with all our samples and size samples and stuff. So, and also all the events we do. So people come in, they try it on, and they get kind of fitted in person, and they know exactly what they're buying. I think there's like a natural resistance to buying apparel online without being able to try it on. So that's something we really face right now with the COVID. And we have a lot of new apparel styles coming also. And so this is all just, I don't know, we're just kind of messing around with ideas and trying to figure out, you know, how do we show apparel. We already do free shipping and free returns on it. So if you're not sure about your sizing, you can order 2 sizes, or you can order 1, try it on, send it back. It doesn't cost you anything. But still, there's nothing quite like that, like tactile experience of connecting with a product in person. But anyway, we'll do our best on this.
I mean, it's going to be pretty cool. We'll just do our brief overview for about 10 minutes or so, try to stay in the frame a little bit. And then after that, we will we'll open it up to you. So we're just going to let you join the live stream. If you've done any of these other live streams with us, you know how it works. You can just join from home, and then you can ask us questions in person. And then around 7:30-ish, 7:45, we'll have our surprise guest join us. So that's pretty exciting too.
And Ash is significantly more interesting than the mannequins we normally have at the show.
Well, yeah, you know, I'm the mannequin. I told Pete I was just awkwardly going to stand here and not say anything. So I'll just stand here like a mannequin. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about mannequin.
1980s movie with like something about mannequins. So yeah, basically, I think that. Oh, you want me to start?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. Yeah, so, people ask like, what is enduro touring? I mean, that's kind of like the number one. I mean, I'm like an engaging mannequin. Yeah. So what's enduro touring? This is our enduro touring kit. What does that mean?
You know, I think we started using the term enduro touring because we felt like you've got ADV and you've got dual sport. And dual sport is typically like the traditional dual sport is like day ride dual sport, you know, where you're going on and off road. And then ADV is a lot of times associated with like larger bikes and lots of gear and sort of easier terrain. And so enduro touring, and what's happening with ADV is I think as so many people came into it like at around the same time, because it's a relatively new sport, And as their skill levels have progressed, they've been pushing into more and more challenging terrain. And it goes from being this thing where you're riding like mostly pavement and gravel roads with a little bit of Jeep track to like mostly gravel roads and Jeep track to mostly Jeep track, and then Jeep track and starting to push off the Jeep track. And so there's kind of this new class between dual sport and ADV that's being created as people from the ADV segment are pushing closer and closer to dual sport, but they're still touring. They've got all their stuff on the bike, all their food, their supplies, their camping gear, still out seeing another country or seeing the backcountry. So it's very much touring. And on the other end of that spectrum, you also have people coming up from dirt bikes and dual sport, starting to inquire about like, how can I strap a tent to the bike? How can I fit a sleeping bag on the bike? So this is really this like new kind of class, I think, in the ADV dual sport thing. And we call it Enduro touring. And it just means you're basically riding mostly off-road. So almost the entire trip is on dirt. So you might go, 7 or 8 days in one direction on dirt, 1 day back on pavement, or you tailor a loop that's like comes around and ends where you started and the whole thing is on dirt. So we do a lot of that. Backcountry discovery routes are kind of a good example of it. And then as you start to branch off from the BDRs into more challenging terrain, especially in the West, there's a lot of public land. So that's a long-winded explanation, but that's kind of what we're calling Enduro touring. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, so Pete, do you want to just give an overview kind of the kit from top to bottom?
I will. Well, okay, so sticking with
highlight some key features.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at the high level, the most significant thing about our kit that differentiated, a lot of people are accustomed to the traditional adventure riding jacket, which has like 15 to 20 pockets on it, sometimes a waist belt, pocket. It's sort of based on the classic like safari jacket look and styling. With lots of vents, lots of zippers. A jacket like that might have 25 or 26 zippers on it, fully developed. And then inside, it's got a mesh liner that's sewn into the jacket. And then in the mesh liner, you have armor panels that are suspended in the mesh liner. So it really consists of 3 components: a shell, a mesh liner, and the armor. So our system is completely different. Our system comes, that type of ADV jacket, that kind of comes more from the road touring world. On the dirt bike side of things, people wear exclusively separate body armor. And the 2 main reasons for that are better impact protection and better temperature control. So better impact protection means you get better armor, and instead of the armor being connected to the jacket, the armor is connected to your body. So when you go flying off the bike, there's a much better chance of the armor being in the spot you need it instead of sloughing off to the side. Many of us have had the experience of a pants, say for example, you sit on the bike and the first thing you do is move the knee pad over your knee. Where's the knee pad going to be when you're flipping through the air and when you're tumbling off the bike? So that's one of the main benefits of separate armor. Another benefit of separate armor is temperature control. So when you get hot, you can take your jacket off. So dirt bikers know this. This is why you don't see dirt bikers, trail riders, enduro riders riding with jackets that have integrated armor. They need to be able to take their jacket off, otherwise they just die, they overheat. So as more and more ADV riders are starting to push into that enduro style terrain, we want to design a kit for the kind of riding we do, this enduro touring, which is designed around separate body armor, but is also built up with the high quality materials, all the high quality trims, the toughness to survive around the world trip. So that's at the high level, just knowing that the jacket.
You're too tall, Pete. You're out of the frame.
But the problem is we can't get the whole jacket and be in the frame because Ashley's short.
It's okay. I'll just stand on my tippy
You
toes. It's perfect. We didn't really think this through, guys. We didn't set up the camera until about 15 minutes ago, truth be told. So that would be our problem.
So that's some context for what we were going for with the Basilisk. All of us, what you see if you go out on these kinds of trips we see a lot of guys wearing separate body armor, and then they just have a ski jacket or a rain shell over the outside. And the problem with doing that is that they flap a lot in the wind. They don't survive when you crash.
Yeah, they're not very tough.
These are outdoor jackets. They're designed for skiing, for backpacking, stuff like that. They're not designed to survive a hit in motorcycling. And they're also, the zippers jam. They have a lot of problems. So we wanted to take that concept and build it up into a real enduro jacket. So that's where we were coming from with the Basilisk, and get rid of all the pockets, all the extra crap that's on these big kind of heavy ADV jackets, and strip it down to basically an outdoor jacket that can survive a hit. So that's what we have with the Basilisk. So one of the first things I'll point out is actually something that's not there.
Yeah, cool. So
feels a little weird.
No, this is great. This is exactly what, it's like kind of awkward, but it's also a little funny. We're just gonna go for it. So let's we can move forward, and then as the individual features come out, we can just kind of get close to the camera. So, So the Basilisk is a shell jacket only. So you'll notice what you don't see on the inside is an integrated liner with all the pockets. So what that does is eliminate a lot of bulk from the jacket and also eliminate a lot of insulation. It doesn't get hot. People, you think, oh, the liner's so thin, how much could it really make me hot? But you'd be amazed at how much insulation is created, because insulation is basically, you have the shell, you have your body, and then you have something between the two that stops air from moving around. That's what creates heat. That's the same principle that, say, like a puffy insulated jacket works on.
That's what's happening with a liner that's suspended inside. The only purpose of that liner is to hold your armor pocket. So once you switch to separate body armor, you can get rid of that liner entirely. It means the jacket's going to pack down a lot smaller off the bike and be a lot less hot when you're wearing it. So this is a shell jacket, and you're probably accustomed to seeing this kind of 3-layer material. So when I say a 3-layer material, that means there's a face fabric, this green. There's an inner material that rests up against your skin, which is this gray. And it's all put together into one material. And in the middle is a waterproof breathable membrane. So there's 3 layers, the green outer, that gray inner, and in the middle, a waterproof breathable membrane, which is made by a company called Event. That's a whole nother topic. If you want to learn about Event, you can get online and check out some of my videos about that. It's a very, very cool fabric. That's one of the first things you'll notice about the jacket. It feels much lighter and more comfortable and not nearly as hot as a traditional ADV jacket. So all of our zippers are the YKK Vislon AquaGuard zippers. So again, this is what we're talking about when we say using the trims and materials you would expect to see in like a really ultra premium ADV jacket.
Yeah, and you don't find that just on the main zip of the jacket. You're gonna find that zipper on every single zip.
Yeah,
so,
and that's something you'll see a lot when you now if you're sort of zipper aware, material aware, some things that you can look for when you're shopping for jackets. On the materials front, looking for 3-layer materials instead of 2-layer materials. And looking for specifically a branded 3-layer material like Event, Gore-Tex, something like that. Polartec makes one too called Neo Shell. So look for a really high quality branded 3-layer material. And then with zippers, the YKK Vislon AquaGuard is pretty much the best water repellent zipper out there right now. And so you'll see on a lot of jackets, as you go up the product line, you'll see at the bottom, they're just using standard seal zippers. We don't have any examples of that to show you here, but you know what that looks like. They're shiny on the outside. You see them on a lot of ski jackets.
I'm gonna move on to talk about venting because I'm real hot.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Am I getting wrapped up in
a little bit, but it's okay.
On.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, we're at about 7:15 right now.
Okay.
So.
Okay, we've got lots of mechanical venting. So we got vents here. We got big exhaust vents on the back. And then, of course, the ultimate venting with this jacket is you just simply take it off. You get hot, you take it off, you roll it up, put it on the back of the bike, and that's okay because your armor is not in the jacket. For abrasion resistance, we're using super fabric. So you see this gray material here. You can look up super fabric online, but you can see these little dots. Those are all ceramic dots that have been applied with heat, and super fabric is famous for its abrasion resistance. It's pretty much the most abrasion resistant textile you can get. It mimics the abrasion characteristics of leather, but in a much more flexible, much less insulating, hot and heavy type of material.
Yeah, it's a lot more malleable than leather. We definitely don't want to be riding around in a lot of leather.
Totally.
One of my favorite features of the jacket is this torso adjustment. So one of the big things that we talk about is layering. So if it's cold, you're going to wear an insulated jacket underneath this. If it's really hot, you're going to take the jacket off altogether, or you're going to open up the vents. And so when you have less layers on, you can actually adjust the size and the fit of your jacket. Or for instance, if you're just wearing this around town for dinner at night or something, you can actually just adjust it so that it fits more like a normal jacket when you don't have your armor and stuff on. So it's really, that's honestly one of my favorite things about this jacket.
We've also got a nice big rain gutter inside here. So if any water does actually manage to penetrate one of the front zippers, you can see we've got a double gutter on that internal storm flap. So that gives you just a little extra protection. And then on the inside, we've got this thing called the dirt skirt.
There are no pit zips. Someone just asked about pits.
No
we don't
pit.
have pit zips. You take the jacket off when you get that hot.
Yeah, pit zips on a motorcycle jacket are these enormous zips, and they kind of catch the wind and inflate the jacket. So yeah,
there you go.
So we didn't do pit zips on this.
Yeah, I'm just reading the comments here real quick so we can catch up. Are we gonna see this in sizes for big kids? Yeah, that's actually one of our priorities with apparel right now. This year we'll be launching some more sizes and just broadening our size range a little bit. It was difficult for us with the first order of apparel with so few pieces, you know, where we just couldn't split it up over so many sizes.
The idea is to push the bookends out, so we're gonna go a little smaller and a little bigger with each kind of production round. So did we cover the stuff on the
I think we covered,
internal pockets?
we covered most of it. The materials are the same on the pants. We'll kind of, this is going to be a little awkward. You won't be able to see our faces as we're talking, so we'll try to move through the pants.
I can squat down.
We can move, yeah, Pete can squat down. So the
Can you
pants
see
are
the
the
pants?
same materials. The jersey, that's our signal jersey that I'm wearing.
And so with the pants, same event material. We've got leather on the inside of the knee. We've got super fabric on the outside of the knee. We've got some really big mechanical vents. So the first ones are here on the knee. So there's a little knee scoop vent there. You have some stuff on under here.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a nice big thigh vent there. And then on the back, we've got a nice big exhaust vents here. So the pants are extremely well vented. Obviously, unlike the jacket, you're not going to take your pants off when you get hot. So having really good ventilation. When you actually sit on the bike, air travels through the knee scoop vent. That sits open like that. Air comes in here, goes across your thigh and out the back.
It really does move nicely across the pant. It's awesome.
We've got leather all down the inside, super fabric trims. And also one cool thing about this, do you have the belt on?
No.
Okay.
I don't have the belt on. Sorry, I didn't get fully kitted. But these pants come with a belt.
A really nice leather belt.
Yeah, really nice leather. You probably have yours on, huh?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah,
This one's well worn. I wear them every day. But
I don't really wear a belt. It's just not my thing. But
we weren't crazy about all those like little Velcro adjusters people put on the sides. You know, sometimes the Velcro rubs against your skin. And just we wanted it. You know, it's different. This is different. It's not like a mountain bike short. Like this is something you're living in every day. You're traveling in.
There is still a waist adjustment, just to be clear though. You have 3 options here on the waist, so you can cinch it up pretty tight even if you're not wearing a belt. And just for size reference, I'm wearing the men's size small. They don't actually have a custom fit kit, but I'm not wearing those right now. I wanted to wear the small so that there was some, you know, relative reference for anybody who's watching.
Do you want to show what your armor looks like?
I can show what my armor looks like. First, I'm going to paste the Pete, if you want to talk a little bit about layering while I paste the meeting details in for people to join us, I'm going to open it up to you guys now so that you can start asking some questions before we have our live guest join us.
Well, let's see. Talk about layering. You mean like the okay? So for separate body armor, let's talk about separate body armor for a second, okay? I think that's what you're getting at.
And
there.
yeah, I can show. Well,
yeah. No, that's all right. If you don't,
I mean,
do you have anything on under there? And now it's a strip show.
Not
that costs extra.
no, but you can talk about armor while I'm.
Yeah. So, well, you can see Ash's body armor there. I mean, with body armor, we're talking about what you'll see typically dirt bikers and track riders wearing. So, on your upper body, you typically have some kind of a base layer, like a jogging shirt, and then you have an armor suit that goes over that, like it's called a pressure suit. That's sort of what you see on Ashley right here. The armor, and there's lots of different styles of these pressure suits. Personally,
I'm 5'5". Someone just asked. Sorry, I'm 5'5" and I weigh about 135 pounds.
Yeah, and you're at the very.
I don't know if that matters to
very small
anybody.
end of the spectrum for our gear.
And yes, there are pockets on the pants for sure. They're nice big pockets. It fits a full size. You can't really see, but it fits like a full size, the XS Max cell phone or any of those big phones that you might want to fit in there.
So what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, layering. So in your upper body, like for me, I'll just tell you what I wear. I wear like a jogging shirt. I wear the force field EXK harness, which you can see on our website. And then I use the Liat 3DF elbow guards. And then I pull on a mesh jersey over the top of that. And then that's what I'm riding in, like, I don't know, 70, 80% of the time. It's amazing. Once you have the freedom to take your jacket off, you might be amazed at how little you actually wear the jacket. That's something that I found, and I think pretty much everybody that's transitioned to separate armor has found, is that your jacket spends a lot of time rolled up on the back of the bike, and you're just riding in this mesh jersey, and the air is just coming in from everywhere. It feels so good, so light and agile.
We have a few questions again. Pete,
okay. What's
your size? Why am I wearing men's size instead of women's size? We don't have women's gear yet, so I'm just wearing whatever I got, you know?
So I'm 6'3", about 190 pounds, and I wear a medium in the EXK harness, and then a large in the jacket, and a size 32 pant.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm almost done here with putting the meeting details in.
Let me just finish on the bottom layering. On the bottom layering, you have a couple options. I wear just like a compression short with no armor in it, and I wear the force field limb tube knee protection, and then of course my moto boots. A lot of people on our team are wearing the Liat armored shorts, so that's a good option if you want hip armor. I don't ride with hip armor, but I'm not necessarily recommending that to other people. I mean, it's definitely a cool thing, and those shorts are pretty comfortable. And people should just pick the armor that works for them. I'm just not a huge fan of wearing armored shorts, but for a lot of people that works. So that's what the bottom layer looks like. So again, just super light and agile and comfortable and athletic.
A couple more questions, and then I just pasted the link to join the meeting. So if you guys join us, just a couple of notes. If you do join us on the meeting and we choose you to come in, we'll admit one person from the waiting room at a time. Make sure that you close out the YouTube tab in your internet browser so that we don't get a lot of audio feedback while you're on the video. Another question, can you hem the pants? No, not really. I mean, you can, but there's super fabric down at the bottom, so it would be pretty difficult to move that or mimic it. And then as far as colors and new apparel questions, we're going to have another live stream with Scott Bryan, our apparel director, next Tuesday. So same time next Tuesday, and Scotty B will go over all of our new apparel that's going to be sorry, he's not going to go over all of the new apparel, but he'll go over some of it, and we'll answer questions then about the new stuff and then colors and all of that good stuff. Okay, look, it looks like we have our first person in the waiting room, so I'm going to admit them. And please, guys, join the meeting. I'll keep pasting that the link to join.
What's up, Jimmy?
What's up? Let's see. It looks like we're connecting to audio. We'll give it a sec.
Still connecting.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, looks like he's trying to solve the audio.
Let's get the light. Jimmy, we're not connected on audio.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear us, but we're not getting anything from you.
Guys. Oh, there we go.
Oh, you're there.
Gotcha. Let's see. It looks like we're connecting to audio.
We can hear your YouTube.
How's it going? I just shut it down.
Perfect.
Cool.
How's
What's
it
up,
going?
Jimmy?
Good. Yourself?
Good.
Let's
Hold on.
turn
Let
up
me
the
turn up
volume.
my volume. Sorry. Okay. There we go. How are you?
Good. I'm
Where are
a
you?
big fan of your luggage stuff, and I really want to try your apparel stuff. But
Awesome.
Right
I'm
on.
the guy that asked about the hemmable pants because my inseam is 28 inch.
Yeah, got it.
And
Well, my inseam, I'm like 27, 28. I have a pretty small inseam as well. And this pant, I'll shift the camera so that you can see in just a second, but this pant is in its, this pant has an adjustment, an inseam adjustment of about 2 inches that you can open up for taller folks. But if you leave it closed, it actually, with the boot, you know, it kind of raises up a little bit, and I find it to be fine. My pant doesn't have any drag.
So this is actually an adjuster right here. And you know, one of the things with moto pants is that you wear them obviously a little bit longer than your typical pant, because when you sit on the bike pushes up on the crotch and it wants to pull the pants up. You probably notice that when you're sitting on your bike, the pants always want to ride up the boot. So moto pants should usually you have a couple of inches longer on a moto pant than you would on your typical pants, you know? But,
oh, I get it. And honestly, my in-laws actually lives in Florida, and I was gonna go to the meetup you guys had there.
Oh yeah,
cool.
Sorry about that. COVID.
And,
Yeah, anybody who's watching, guys, we can't wait to have more meetups in person again. Please come join us at them. It's super fun. We'll buy you a beer. Speaking of buying things and gifts and things, so normally we do a discount at meetups, like an in-person discount on show orders and stuff. And I created a discount code for this virtual meetup called Live10. So if you use that on the website, any apparel purchase actually already gets free shipping. And then the Live10 code will get you 10% off as well. So that's kind of like our big thank you for joining the online movement. And yeah.
Jimmy, where are you located?
I'm actually in Canada, and I'm in Ottawa right now, but I've actually met Andrew. I used to live in Victoria by Vancouver there.
Oh, cool.
I've actually met Andrew, and I've actually met Ashley at the Vancouver motorcycle show a couple years back as well.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
that was
awesome.
many years ago.
Cool, man. Are people riding up there in Ottawa right now?
You're not supposed to. I've got out on a couple rides on commute and such, but yeah, it's supposed to be a self-monitoring, self-isolating kind of thing right here. So
Yeah, I think we're kind of in the same boat here, but people are there's a lot of bikes on the road, and I think the dirt bike areas are closed, but I'm seeing a lot of bikes and a lot of trucks. So people are definitely riding, but I think we're not supposed to. You know, we've been laying low. We have a little track on at our
it's
house,
really
so we just
hard.
ride around the house.
It's tempting, you know, the bikes. We've definitely been primping the bikes, getting them ready for riding season, and it's super hard to keep them in the garage, but we've stuck to it so far.
Yeah.
now the weather has been a little weird. Like it was warm around the week before Easter, but now today it was snowing, so it's kind of
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been dealing with some weird weather too.
It's not the worst time of year to be stuck at home. I mean, summer would be the real worst.
I do have I guess 2 more questions. I know last year you guys were at the Toronto show, but this year you guys there was no, didn't make it to the Toronto or the Montreal show. Is there any plan in the future to hit any other Canadian
Yeah.
shows like in the Vancouver one?
I'll share with you really quick the difficulty of us getting out to those shows, and we're trying to solve it. We really are. We're trying to come up with a good solution for this, but driving our show capacity now has grown to the point where we have a 40-foot trailer and a truck that goes to each show. That's our setup now that we have apparel and mannequins and all of that good stuff. We have a full size run for people to try on. So transporting across Canada that 40-foot trailer in the middle of winter is pretty daunting. So that's kind of what kept us from registering this year, to be honest. We wanted to go, like we were all gung-ho for being there at both of the Montreal and the Toronto shows, but we ended up pulling the plug because of the travel during the winter. But we are trying to figure out how to pare down our kit to a point where we can fly in with at least a few size samples for people to try on. So hopefully we'll have some resolution for next year, and hopefully events are back up and running by then. To
show our full line, we have 4 mannequins, 2 double garment racks, 5 motorcycles, plus an enormous number of samples and displays to show all this stuff. It's just like, it's gotten so hard. Like we used to I used to be able to ride into a show. Like I would ride in with the bags on the bike, pick up a box of Kinko's and go set it up with a pallet and just put our vinyl sign on it. And now it's like this huge trailer with 3 axles and all this stuff, you know?
Cool. And you had one more question, you said?
Yeah, the last question is, with the current pans that you guys have, there's that zipper extension that you were talking about. But I remember reading on the blog that you said the Nix version won't have that.
Yeah.
So then is the inseam for that going to be the 32-inch inseam?
I think it's 32, 34. I think that's what we're
34.
Yeah.
But this is the 32, the one that I just showed you. So you might have luck with it. I mean, I think that with like we talked about, when you get on the bike, it pulls up a little bit, and even just with the armor, like the knee pads and the pants and stuff, it seems like it rides a little bit higher. Like my inseam definitely is.
And let's just send you. If you want, we'll send you. We could do free shipping. I mean, you're in Canada, but we'll work it out. We'll do something special for you to get a pair of pants up there, try them on, and if they don't work, send them back.
Someone asked again how tall I am and what my inseam is. I'm 5'5", and my inseam is like, I think 28 inches. I'm gonna say 28. It might be a little less. I'm not sure. I don't even think I'm exactly 5'5". Didn't you measure me the other day? And I was like,
remember how tall you were. I have a tape measure.
Anyway, we don't need to measure me on camera. It's fine.
Are there new color options for the pants coming out?
We do actually.
Yeah,
we do. We have 2. I think the pants are coming in 2 colors. So our whole production order has been delayed because of the COVID. Our factory's closed right now and so they're 6 weeks in Bangladesh. They're completely closed. So we're still waiting to find out when those come in. But we do have 2 color options.
There will be like didn't we go with a tarmac color?
Yeah. It's one. I
can't really describe it that well, but we do have a couple of color options coming.
Definitely, we have one that's like, I think a dark. I think they're both a little different than the flat black we did this year. Because it's just, I can't remember off the top of my head. I need our colorways in front of me.
Hey, Jimmy, thanks for joining us. We're going to let a couple other people join before we get our special guest on.
Well, thanks a lot.
Hey, right, Jimmy, it was really nice to see you. Take care.
Thanks for coming on.
Likewise.
All right.
Nice. Okay. Who's in the waiting room? So let's take 1 or 2 more people, and then I just text our special guest and ask them to hold off about 10 minutes. So we had a little bit more time. So let's see who we can get in here.
What's up, Chris? What's up, Chip? How's it going? Oh, we don't hear you.
You're no muted. Audio. Mute.
No. Unmute.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
And up your shirt.
Yeah,
T-shirt.
I just got that today.
Yeah, we did. That's nice. What's up, man?
Not much. How you guys doing?
We're real good,
man.
We're
good. Thanks for staying awake. We were talking on Instagram earlier today, and he has to wake up super early in the morning, and on the East Coast, it's a little bit later there.
Where are you? Where are you right now?
I'm in South Carolina.
Oh, you're in South Carolina. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
How are things out there? What's going on? Are people still out and about, or what's happening?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's some. It's kind of blowing my mind, to be perfectly honest. But
really.
Yeah, there's. It's not as bad, but there are some still people out and about.
Yeah. People they're not following the recommendations or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
Man.
Like where we are, we're like a little ways outside. We live in a small town to begin with, and we're like outside of town, 10 miles. So
Yeah.
we're basically quarantined anyway out here.
Yeah.
looks like
yeah, I've actually got family in Hood River, so they're not too far.
Really?
On the way.
Dude, that's awesome.
Cool, man.
So you've
That's why
seen the
I-
apparel, you've seen our apparel in person, right? When Tim Collins, you probably saw it on Tim last time you were together.
I did. He was out. He stayed out here with me for the weekend, and he had the panniers and the full Basilisk gear and everything like that. And that stuff is insane. It was amazing.
That's
Hey,
awesome. Thanks for saying that, man. I feel like it. One of the apparel, our apparel, you really have to see it and touch it to get it, because I feel like it. Like pictures on the internet. I think like a lot of people have seen kind of Enduro jackets before, and so they see the image of ours and they assume it's going to look and feel like an Enduro jacket, and it totally. I mean, in terms of the materials, because most of those jackets you get from like, I won't name names on here, but like all the dirt bike brands ever are the same sort of pretty flimsy materials. The stuff that you see at like the dealerships. And ours is made from those same heavy duty materials you see in like the high end ADV jacket. So it looks and feels it feels a lot different,
To me, it felt many times over better. I mean, it was just the quality. It felt incredible. Like you could drag yourself down the road on it and get up and you're good.
Yeah.
Dude, I will say, okay, I walked in the office the other day. None of us are working from the shop right now, but I walked in to grab something, and we're working with this company called Rainy Pass Repair up in Seattle. Excuse me. That's what happens when you drink LaCroix on YouTube Live. You got to burp. Anyway, so I walked in the office and I saw this stack of gear sitting there, and it was completely torn up. And I was like, what happened to this? And I guess the kid, this guy let his kid wear his jacket, and he went flying off the bike. He was just horsing around on the road, and he like slid going really fast. And man, the jacket was like the super fabric was definitely like almost gone, but it still protected that waterproof material underneath. It was so surprising. I was really shocked that it wasn't torn all the way through.
Yeah, the jacket's double layer, all the way through the shoulders and down the arms. So even if someone was to wear through the super fabric, the green material continues up under the super fabric. So if you do wear through this super fabric, there's actually a whole nother layer of fabric that has to get through before it gets to your skin,
Yeah.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Man. All right, man. Well, it was great to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Good to see you guys.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right,
Have a good night.
Thanks for
Stick around.
See ya.
Okay. Bye. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, we got a couple of questions while we're waiting for Sam to join us. Let's see. Sam! So Sam's audio is connecting. I'm going to read off a couple of questions that we have had in the meantime on the apparel. So number one, do the pants have knee pads in them? Sam, do you want to answer that question for us?
No. What's up, guys?
What's up, Sam?
Hey. Yeah, the pants do not have knee pads. It's a whole layering system, which is totally awesome. And I've been on my bicycle, so I'm going to be down into those pants here pretty quick, by the way.
Hell yeah. Good for you.
Yeah.
Right
and I can't wait. And hang on, Pete. Let's see.
Nice. Oh, I had that same shirt on earlier.
I have
a clean shirt. I put on pants because we're going to be on the live stream, and I'm standing in this one. I can't just be in, boxers or whatever.
You got to represent waist down too today, right? I am wearing shorts.
Yeah, no, I can't shirt cock.
Yeah, the meetups.
Sorry, go ahead, Sam.
The meetups, everybody's asking about those. We know those are going to happen again. One of the questions that a lot of people are talking about is all about the unrally, but I know that's kind of probably up in the air still.
Yeah, and unrally is not really Mosko. We really try to divide those two things. Yeah, the unrally is not a Mosko event. If anyone wants information about the unrally, go to unrally.org, hunt it down, or go find us on Facebook, and we'll talk to you about it there. But through Mosko channels, we're trying not to talk about it too much.
It's like Fight Club.
It is. Totally. It's like Fight Club.
I totally get that. It's good to see you guys again finally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice to see you too, man.
Seriously, man.
Stick around. We're gonna have another guest join in just a couple minutes. And
Dude, I'm not going anywhere. I'm at all these,
Okay,
and the
good,
numbers are
good.
killer.
I know, man. Thanks for the support. You've been at every single one of them.
Sam,
no
yeah,
problem.
love to catch up with you in person as soon as all this stuff lifts, you know?
Yeah.
That will happen. I got to ride your track.
Yes,
Yeah,
you do.
it's a very short track, but we call it a track, you know?
I'm good with it.
It's
All right,
usually
guys.
opinion. All right,
Okay,
see you,
bye, Sam.
See ya.
Okay, I'm gonna answer one more question, and then I think we'll have our guests joining us in just a second. So one question that I do want to answer is talking about cold weather riding in the skier.
Yeah.
How does that work? How many layers would we need for, say, a 0 degree Fahrenheit climate?
I can't really talk about, everybody's different with their layers and whatnot. All I can do is say, you know, I think most of us have the experience of wearing waterproof breathable garments in cold weather. So event, if you go to like the mountaineering and climbing forums, you'll see that people who wear event tend to insulate a little bit more than people who wear other layers like Gore-Tex, other membranes like that. It does tend to feel a little bit cooler because it has a very small amount of air permeability. I mean, it's minuscule, it's a couple of percentage points, but one of the reasons event ventilates better, it's a direct, I don't want to get into all the technology of this. You can get on event and check it out. I could do a whole chat just on this thing. But the bottom line is that because event vents so much better than Gore, it's not uncommon to need a little bit of extra insulation. But it's not like this hugely material thing. It's not like you're wearing like a whole nother jacket or something like that. It just wears a little cooler. You can't have it on both ends, you know? It's like you can't be both warmer and cooler, you know? So I think event tends to ride a little cooler.
Yep. Okay, we're ready for our guest. And sorry for all the suspense. I was just totally being a dork. I'm like, we're bored, we're quarantined. I'm just like having as much fun with this as possible. So I'm bringing our guest or guests on. Yeah, why don't we transfer to the living room? Tim! It's Tim Burke. He's connecting to audio, so he can't talk to us yet. But surprise, everybody!
Surprise. Here, let's move to the living room.
Do we have you? Yes, we do. Okay, guys, sorry for the awkward. We're gonna.
Hold on.
Huh? What?
Zoom. Is it working?
Oh yeah, you're
Can you
on.
hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear
I
you.
can officially
We're
make a
gonna-
fool of myself now that I'm making noise.
And we're gonna just go on a quick little detour to our living room. Don't look at the mess. We are now moving out of the. I gotta get out of this apparel, dude. Whose idea was this for me to do a whole?
Over sitting on the couch.
No, it is fine for sitting on the couch, but I'm sweating because the event works very well for venting when you're riding. Not so
when you're
much.
marching around your house.
Yeah, exactly.
Tim, what's
I'm
up,
gonna
man?
Take this apparel.
How's it
off.
going, P?
Yeah, not bad. You know, just like what, week 4 of quarantine or something for us?
It's in your mind yet? I am.
Yeah, we're, to be honest, man, we're doing pretty well because we just moved into this new place. We just got this place and it's like we got a little property out here. We're 10 minutes outside of town. We got a shitload of home improvement projects to do. We got mountain bike trails right across the street. We've got trails that we put in on the property. It was one of the first things we did. So we can jump on our dirt bikes and go rip around or get on the mountain bikes and go get some exercise. So we've actually been pretty stimulated, and like work is keeping us busy too. I mean, it's just like, I don't know, man, it's been weird, but it's like, we're busy. What about you?
Oh, that's awesome when you have some personal projects to work on, the timing for me. And I always hate talking about me when it comes to coronavirus because there's billions of other people that are also inconvenienced. The whole world is inconvenienced, but the timing with coming back from operating at I just wrote an article on Upshift about operating at stimulation levels that are through the roof. And then coming back and having this like thrown in, it was just like the ultimate crash. So it's been pretty funny.
What a contrast. I think it might, I asked you to do this the other night when you chimed in
Oh yeah.
as well, but I think it would be a good idea you're our surprise guest for the night. So you're like our star DJ. So I think it might be cool for anybody who's not already following you on like Instagram or, you know, just isn't already aware of your thing, like to give folks an overview of like who you are and, you know, and how to find you online and learn about your story and stuff like that.
Totally. And then we're going to let people join us in the meeting too. I figured that would be kind of cool if instead of us just fielding the questions in the live chat, we'll just like let people join with us.
Yeah. I don't take my clothes off for free, Ash. You know that. So just, as long as you start
We
PayPal.
arranged that. I thought we arranged that ahead of time. I've got the PayPal ready to go just after the meeting.
And unfortunately, you can't do hand jobs over Zoom, so that's out too.
Oh, well, now it's rated X. You see, I kept it at the PG-13 level, and you just took it beyond that.
So, yeah, you want to give everyone a quick overview on kind of who you are and what you're about?
Yeah, for sure. Last time was totally unplanned when I joined you guys on here, and I kind of did it last time, but in case there's some new people. I was working in the aviation industry, and I wanted to go on a motorcycle trip. My boss said no. This was April 5th, 3 years ago. So I'm just over 3 years since I said I quit. And it was supposed to be a 6-month trip through Europe, ship the bike to and from, get it out of my system, come back to work. I loved my job. It wasn't about hating my job and running away from anything. I had awesome coworkers, and I really did enjoy going to work. I worked on fun projects. I got to watch airplanes every day, which is what I've been doing since I was a kid anyways. It's just I happened to be getting a paycheck for it. And I just wasn't riding my motorcycle enough. There was always that ticker in the back of your head when you go on these weekend-long trips that you were rushing. I was doing these 500-600 mile days to get back, and I was like, I wonder what it's like to have no limit. I'm going to do it for 6 months. And I blew past the 6-month mark. And now I'm pushing 70-something countries. I've lost track on 4 different continents, 140 or 150,000 miles. And it was kind of a surprise to me that it worked out. I didn't think that it was possible to make it work. 3 years ago, I didn't expect to be still riding, but piecing together some freelance projects and working with different companies providing photography, it's just kind of all worked out. It's been about 95% luck and 5% manipulation on my part. I just manipulate people into thinking that I'm worth supporting. And it's worked out. It's also like all sorts of different funny projects, like selling calendars and selling canvas prints. And I joke all of my photos are ruined by, my mom likes my photography, but she said, I don't know why there's always a motorcycle in them. It was a beautiful picture to begin with. I joke with people, all my photos are available without the motorcycle. I take one with the motorcycle and then I point it this way and take one without, and then people buy those prints and put them on their living room wall. And it's kind of kept me afloat, just barely, but really cheap lifestyle. And 3 years later.
And you've become kind of an ADV celebrity. You've got a big following and a lot of fans, man. It's really been really, really cool to watch that happen. And how, when you mentioned how you're financing it by doing projects and stuff like that. Did you start with a big pile of cash that's been like sort of diminishing, like that, or did you, and then you're like supplementing it, or do you have outside income, or how are you paying for all this?
Yeah, super common question, and something that I work really hard to be transparent with. That, before I started, I thought that that you need to be a trust fund baby or independently wealthy. I was none of that. I was doing decent. It was a government job that I had, but it definitely wasn't rich by any means. It's been, I hit the road with savings. I hit the road, like I said, with enough money to do 6 months in Europe. That's all that I had on my calendar. And I already had the motorcycle, which answers the question, which bike do you use for a trip like this? Use whatever you have. If I had a 50cc scooter, I'd use that. And people have proven that you can go around the world on whatever the heck machine you want. I already had the bike. It was already paid for. I had the gear. So for me, the only costs involved were getting the bike to and from Europe, and then gasoline, tires, hostels, a few beers here and there. And I budgeted about $13,000 for that and blew past that and spent all my savings.
It was all the beers. I saw them on Instagram.
What's that?
I said it was all the beers. That's how you blew through it. I watched it on Instagram.
They were forced upon me. I am a victim.
You were overserved.
I'm totally kidding. Yeah, you were overserved.
Yeah, so to answer the question, be completely transparent, I hit the road with about 20,000, and somehow I've stretched that for 3 years. And of course, there's been income, and I encourage people to realize, I think there's like this mental block that people have that once you hit the road, you have to stay on the road all the time. It's okay to stop and work and do some freelance stuff. I've got when I was 18, I got my CDL, so I could drive big tractor trailers and stuff. And actually that put me through college mostly.
Wow.
I still stop and do that. My friends own construction companies, and I'll stop for a few weeks at a time and drive a dump truck. That's totally cool. Last winter, I was driving a snowcat at a ski resort for a few months. There's nothing wrong with having to stop, take a breather, replenish the funds, and it might not be the salary that you were used to. It might not be the 9 to 5, and that's okay as long as it's sustaining you. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I'm not a YouTuber. I don't do the vlogging thing. The perfectly honest reason why is I'm too lazy. It takes a ton of work to be a video guy. People like Tolga and Itchy Boots. There's so many. Road Trip Down, my friend William. Kinga on her, which is on her bike. I'm trying to name my favorite people who vlog. People don't realize how much work they put into it. But there's a payoff for them. They get a following the same way that my photography has gotten me a following. And they've leveraged that. A lot of them have leveraged that for themselves to help keep them sustainable. And the reason that I mentioned vlogging and I mentioned those people is just to prove there's no right or wrong way to do it. There's some people that stop and volunteer at hostels for months at a time. And now that's free lodging and all you're covering is the cost of your food. There's people that day trade. I don't know anything about that, but the thing with finances is if you're creative enough, you can figure out how to do it. And I want to encourage people, whoever the heck is listening, if there's a will, there's a way. If I could figure out how to do it, anybody certainly can.
I really like the odd jobs thing, you know, the notion of like stopping somewhere for a month or two and doing, and I think that can become really a part of the experience. Probably one of the challenging things that when you're outside of the US is that there's some limitations on where you can work and get paid, and then B, that if you're in the developing world, the salaries are just so low, it'd probably be hard to accumulate much, you know.
For sure.
I like that notion of like when you're going through a place where, you know, they have, you know, you can generate a decent income, like working odd jobs, that just would become like an awesome part of the whole experience. What a great idea. What are some of you said you did a snowcat, CDL, any other things like that you've done in your travels?
Yeah, writing has been one of my big things. I'm pretty proud to be involved with the guys at Upshift, and it's so much more than a professional relationship, kind of like my relationship with you guys right now. My relationship with Chris, Simon, and Brandon at Upshift is a friendship. You know, we text each other jokes and whatnot and talk on WhatsApp. And if they're up to something, you know, I usually know what they're up to and they know what I'm up to outside the writing. But the opportunity that they gave me, starting with issue number 1, they don't know this. So this is the first time I've ever told this story. We're going to go into storytelling mode.
Wait, really? You're going to do it now?
Well, did I tell you this one?
You did.
Okay,
we talked about this, but I'm excited for you to share it.
Chris Glassville, who is the editor and the genius behind putting together the layouts and the graphic designer for Upshift, I had no idea who he was, and some guy messaged me in my Instagram inbox and was like, hey, I'm starting a new magazine and we're looking for people to take cool photos and tell cool stories. Do you know how to write? I'm like, well, I mean, my English teachers in high school, like when they assign me writing about Shakespeare and analyze critical thinking on like some classical works, no, that doesn't interest me. But if I'm writing about motorcycles, yeah, I think I can write pretty good. And he's like, well, can you give me a sample? And me and some friends had just gone on I want to say it was a 10-day trip through British Columbia and Alberta, Canada, up to the Canadian Rockies. And I sent him the text and the photos, and they're like, "This is awesome. We're going to publish it." And they sent me money via PayPal. And even though they don't know this, that is what planted the seed in my head and got me to scratch my chin that, hold on a second, maybe there's value in the stories I have to share in the photography. And like a few months went by, and I pitched an idea to them about going out to Colorado and doing a dirt bike trip to these secret
Sorry, we
fishing
just
holes.
found a tick on our computer screen. Sorry.
Kill it.
I'm sorry. We have Tim. Just wait 1 second.
We have this happened last. This happened in the last one too.
I'm
What
sorry.
the fuck?
Our dogs have become tick bags. They're just bringing ticks inside the house. I'm sorry. It was literally climbing on the computer screen. I'm
Are you
sorry.
sure it's not lice? Pete's been scratching
No, it's
himself.
so disgusting. I was literally Googling last night, can humans take tick medication?
Sorry, man. That's what I was pointing at across the thing there. I was like, we got to kill that tick.
Sorry.
That's funny.
All right.
Lyme
Continue.
disease is nothing to joke about.
I know.
No.
Yeah, no, what I was saying, a few months later, I did an article for Upshift, and it was about fly fishing in the Rocky Mountains, taking dirt bikes, motorcycle accessed fly fishing, and wrote an article about it. Taking dirt bikes like deep into the Rockies and finding like rainbow trout, bull trout, and all these crazy things. I'm not much of a fisherman, but one of my best friends, Brad, is. So he took me on a tour, and that was the second article. And I'm like, hold on a second, maybe I can do this. And then this like turned into an obsession. And I started looking at Google Maps, and I was like, maybe I can write my way through this journey. So that's been the other source of income is writing. And it's pretty cool to say now that I got my start with Upshift, and they're still one of my biggest supporters, my biggest supporter actually, but other magazines around the world contact me. I've been published in an Australian magazine and a French magazine. I don't know, they do the translation. I have no idea what it says, but if you have a story to tell it. That can work. That's a source of, I'm not saying that's the only way, but that could be a source of income as you make your way around the world. Just figure it out. Use your brain and figure out a way to do it. But Upshift had a big part in me saying I quit. So that means I'm coming knocking on their door when I need somewhere to live.
I was thinking about this the other day, because this model of like going out traveling and exploring and then somehow documenting it and then sharing your stories and then funding your travels is a model that's like goes back a long way. I mean, to explorers, archaeologists, adventurers, like Indiana Jones type shit. And actually there's a book I read, it was written in like, I think 1918 or 1920 called Around the World on a Motorcycle. It was the first ever circumnavigation on a motorcycle. And they had like, I think it was a Harley or a Triumph. I think it was a Harley, and it's like 3 Hungarians on one bike. It's a totally crazy story. It's a book, and they were selling their pictures to newspapers. Yeah, I'm serious, like 1920. It's totally nuts, or 1918, I think. And they do this incredible trip, and one of them drops off. There's 2 guys and a girl on one motorcycle with a sidecar, but they were funding their travels by selling photographs to newspapers and coming back and doing. They came back for a little while and did some presentations and a little tour. And then you look at before social media, there were all these kind of adventurers and travelers that had these like self-published books, that would go out and then come back and like publish a book about how to do it or a place they went or something like that. And they'd sort of go around to events and hawk the books. And there's still people supporting themselves with that and doing presentations. And then social media, YouTube, Instagram and stuff has like blown this wide open and made it much more accessible, but it's also massively upped the game. Because the world is much more accessible, and then people have a way of sharing. So you to stand out in this very like crowded field, you really have to do something special. And I think that says a lot about your, the kind of content you're producing and stuff like that you're getting this level of attention. It's really cool.
And also,
that's really cool. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ash.
It's okay. You're just so real. That's what people love about you. That's what we love about you. Like you
What
just
a few
say
people hate about me. Let's be fair.
Yeah, I know. I love when you give people shit for making stupid comments. It's like my favorite thing.
I saw a meme. I do need to tone it down.
No, you don't.
Especially after a few glasses of wine. But I saw a meme. Social media is a double-edged sword, Pete. You summed it up perfectly. That it's it has made the world seem, it's given people confidence in the fact that the world is really accessible. And I try to use Instagram or social media, I'll say blanket social media, to get people out of their comfort zones and be like, listen, I keep repeating myself, but I mean it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Here's some pictures from Sudan, which our country slaps a level 3 do not travel red flag like travel advisory against, and it was the safest place I've been in all my travels. And it's so funny to me that unless there's people shoving it in your face and convincing you that these places aren't that dangerous, why would you know otherwise?
Right.
And that's what's really cool about Instagram is it's encouraged people to leave their comfort zones. It's allowed people to make a name for themselves. Nobody's like me, post some pictures online for their family, and all of a sudden 58,000 people are following along. And it's like, I haven't changed. I'm still the unfiltered person. And all of a sudden I'm offending like 99% of them.
You offend more people now.
You used to just offend a few people in the crowd, and now
Yeah, it was my mom and my sister that got offended. Now it's the whole, no. I do try to be honest and transparent. Like I said, I think there's enough candy coating of travels. You know, we see it with a lot of the, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. We all know those accounts on Instagram or social media that only show the perfect lifestyle, the martini glass with an empty beach. But in reality, you know, there's a McDonald's next to it or something. There's enough profiles out there that depict this perfect world. And it's like, no, I mean, let's just go out there and tell it how it is. And
Really?
kind of the approach that I took from the beginning. And hopefully it's given people a realistic perspective into the things that I've seen and stuff like that. And
yeah.
but you're right, Pete. It can be a double-edged sword. It can be. There's pros and cons to everything in life.
Hey Tim, do you have gallery view on your computer or on your what are you on right now?
I'm on
What's up, Tim?
full screen.
Yeah.
Can you see Sam?
Yeah.
Hey,
can
what's
you?
go-
I
what's
can
going
now.
on,
I
Tim?
can.
Hey,
Okay,
what's up, buddy?
cool.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Hey, I can relate just about that much. I mean, you've traveled so much more extensively. I know that, you hear these various stories. Oh, this country's this country's that. I remember a couple years back flying down to Santiago, Chile and renting bikes and riding down to Tierra del Fuego and then coming back and having, my buddy had 8 flat tires our first week. Yeah, in a week. It was, I mean, had we not had electrical on my bike back in our Alaska trip, there's no way I'd have been able to deal those flat tires. But, not speaking the language and just finding good people, genuine people, and ignoring what media tells you, it's amazing how many amazing, great people out there.
You're absolutely right. It's so funny how all of Latin America is painted with one brush stroke. And if you break down in Peru or Chile or Honduras, that statistically the most murderous countries in the world are Honduras and El Salvador, and it's the United States has a lot to do with why that exists. But if you break down there, the chances of someone inviting you into their house and giving you the shirt off their back is like 98%. Like you could almost guarantee that someone's going to help you in those countries. And it's unbelievable that you're like, wait a second, this isn't what the news has been force feeding me.
Absolutely. It's the experiences, the people experiences. I mean, I think I had a guy at some gas station trying to hook me up with his niece. I don't know, but it was just the whole experience of people. There's good people everywhere,
So did you get a free tank of gas out of that deal or what?
No, it was like 2 a.m. where I'm at this gas station. I got into their Wi-Fi, tried to use Google Translate. Oh, it was a shit.
I've been there before.
But it was it's those memories. And I mean, I can only imagine with how long you've been on the road and all the different countries you've been into, those similar experiences with just genuinely good people in this bad area.
I think a big part of this sport is putting ourselves in kind of situations where we know we're actually going to be vulnerable or we feel vulnerable. and in places where we feel a little bit uncomfortable, and being vulnerable in places where we feel a little bit uncomfortable, and then coming out of it unscathed or with these incredibly contrasty experiences that are so different from what we expected. That's part of what makes this thing tick. That's part of the stimulation. Does someone have their YouTube on?
No,
right now, or
it's
is it-
I think there's background noise.
Yeah,
on.
it's probably my grandson. He's running around.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I just want to make sure it wasn't that. But I think there's a Lowest Price. Am I saying your name right? Lowest Price.
Yeah, you are.
Lowest Price. There's a TED Talk. Lowest Price is a famous motorcyclist. Super interesting lady. Check her out online if people haven't seen her. But she has a TED Talk you can get on YouTube called "In Praise of Vulnerable Travel." She's a female traveler. She's ridden through Iran, all over the world. So check her out. It's a really neat
short.
TED Talk.
It's only like 10 or 15 minutes, but man, it just like it
Give me the
nails
chills.
it. Yeah,
it gave me the chills when I watched it. I was like, oh, this is exactly it.
Yeah, it's
That's
hard
really
to
cool.
it's
Yeah.
hard to put into words exactly what it is. It's not necessarily like you don't want to die. I'm not like putting myself in absolute death's like scope, but I want to be vulnerable. Like I want it to be dangerous. I want it to be the unknown. I want to venture out into that. That's part of why I travel.
For sure, and I don't want to ignore the fact it's important to acknowledge that travel through conflict areas or areas where the drug trade has created the recipe for extreme violence, common sense is required. Don't do stupid things. In one of the most simplest approaches that you can take to keeping yourself safe is being off the road at night. Not only because most crime happens at night, but also just the animals in the road. But I don't want to belittle the fact that it does take common sense. It'll take some street sense, which you'll develop whether you like it or not as you start traveling. But if you employ that, 99% of the people are going to take care of you and point you in the right direction.
Totally. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting how that we spend all this time and energy like trying to minimize the shit that's going to go wrong on the trip, like make sure we're prepared for everything, the bad weather and breakdowns of the tires, what's going to happen, this and that. I got my inReach and all these things. And yet then when we do all that, and that enables us to push into these more challenging areas or more sketchy areas or whatever, to go to these more challenging spots where we know for certain things are going to go wrong. We just don't know what. And then when we get home, all the stories we tell, like 80% of them are about the things that went wrong and how we dealt with it. And that's the fun part. Those become the highlights of the trip. So it's like we put all this energy into trying to eliminate the problems. And then we deliberately go to places where we know the problems are going to happen. And then we come home and the best stories come from the problems. Like, oh, we broke down this little town. These people said we could stay on their couch. We made great friends and saw their families, went to the factory, did all these interesting things.
Well, and
that's
not,
the story.
Not to get even deeper onto a soapbox or anything, but this comes right back to like our need at a cellular level to function in a tribe, and that we don't really do that anymore in the practice of our life, and we don't have conflict. Like we're angsty things, us human beings. We need to have conflict, and so we don't have enough of it in our life, and so then we have to go find danger or adventure to sort of
it's just like it's like any family. You're going to have conflicts, you're going to have times where it's not going well, but when it's the family bond, those people, the bond of motorcycles, and they just bond together and you do and accomplish good things, and it's kind of a cool anomaly that doesn't happen in a lot of different places. I mean, South America, I was riding a KLR, and this other guy and his dad were riding. He was 19 years old, and he's all, yeah, if you were on a big bike, a GS, I wouldn't have come and said hi. It was because
it's funny. Someone just said, do you think, is there more risk or vulnerability when riding a more expensive or flashy bike? That's sort of on the same, on the same topic of, is there a difference riding a big bike rather than a bike that the
I think there's
locals
less
are riding?
vulnerability. I mean, I think that's part of Sam's point is that if when you're on the big adventure bikes, there's a little bit of an intimidation factor, about the bikes, and that definitely, I think there is something to that. I think when you're like a dirty, dusty, beat down traveler, people find you much more approachable than when you're shiny and new and on something expensive. There's definitely, I think that's a factor.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, Ashley pointed that out. Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, no, there's definitely comes right down to the gear that you're wearing. Actually, I don't like wearing high visibility, reflective, bright yellow stuff. I choose gray, black, or brown gear. And
Yeah.
there's just something psychologically about it that doesn't scream authoritative or like you're trying to stand out. Remaining incognito, trust me, in a lot of these countries, you'll have absolutely, positively no challenge standing out. You are the outsider.
Yeah.
It's very obvious, but you should work hard to minimize that. And, you know, especially in these poverty-stricken countries where your tire change last week, when you put new tires on your bike, you spent more putting tires on the bike than these people make in a year. So you need to be really cognizant of that when you're going through these villages. And I've taken the logos off my bike. It's a super recognizable bike to anybody in the motorcycle industry, but just little things like that make a big difference. And not rubbing it in. It's almost disrespectful to rub it in that you're on a big fancy bike. I'm gonna say that it's strategic and I'm doing it on purpose. It's mostly because I'm lazy, but I don't wash my bike. I let it stay dirty.
I love that.
I do think that it makes a difference, and not having logos on it.
Totally.
You know, from a country with the biggest bike is a 150cc bike, it makes a big difference trying to stay low key and be respectful in these villages. I was just having a conversation. How often have we seen in the motorcycle community live pipes save lives? I've owned Harleys before. Trust me, I love the sound of a good V-twin. But the more I travel, I realized a change in myself. The more I like silence in my bike. I was on my Airbnb host let me borrow a 50cc Honda Ruckus, and it's so quiet. And I'm like, this is a totally different experience. I want a silent bike. I want a completely silent bike. As I'm rolling through these countries, actually, I've noticed a big difference in having my stock OEM muffler on there to keep things quiet. And I also noticed that it makes me a lot more approachable when you're not a super loud, obnoxious bike.
Yes, totally. Anything you can do to become more approachable in travel, for sure. Hey, Sam, thanks for joining us. I'm going to switch over. We've got another super...
Take care, Sam.
Hey,
All right,
good to see you guys.
Thanks for
Bye,
chiming in.
Sam.
Yeah, of course.
Great to see you.
Um,
Let's see. Hey, Tim, you're going to be surprised here, or maybe you won't be surprised. I don't know. We'll see. And it's like 8:10. So
Oh, you know what? My mom's calling me. I gotta go. I gotta go home. I don't have time for this.
You gotta wash your hair.
Hi, Fred.
Yeah, I gotta go curl my hair and straighten it. How's it going, Chris?
Hey, what's happening?
Some dudes in Idaho told me to wear this. I don't know. I got it at a.
Can you hear me?
8:10. So.
Oh, you know what? My mom's calling me. I gotta go.
Your YouTube
Oh yeah.
I gotta go home. I don't know.
Chris, close your YouTube.
Turn off your
I
YouTube.
gotta go.
It's like, okay, the first live stream that I joined, I did the same thing, and it was Spencer and Chris Hunt were doing.
Is that Kyle behind you?
Yeah, it is.
Hey,
So,
Kyle.
hey, Kyle.
What's up, Tim?
So Spencer and Chris were doing a live stream.
Yeah, we have to.
When we joined, I heard all the voices and I was like, oh no, they're having audio playback. So I almost texted and told them in the live chat, like, guys, oh my God, you're having it. But it was totally me. And it sounds like you're like tripping or something. You're like on acid. Like you can hear like somebody's voices.
We should let people know who Chris is.
Yeah.
So Tim,
Chris,
you wanted to do the intro for Chris?
Chris is the editor. This is Chris Glassfell, everybody, the editor for
Chris, if I knew you were listening, I wouldn't have said all those nice things.
The man.
We're gonna have
Well, I had to defend myself.
We're gonna have another episode where we have all three of the Upshift guys on here to hang out, but we're getting a little preview of old Chris here.
What's going on, man?
No,
How are
I
things
just-
in?
It's good. We're just like jonesing to ride. Simon went out today and rode a little bit and tested some equipment locally, but obviously we're taking precautions and just trying to be light on the trails. Don't want to do anything too dangerous right now because we don't want to put staff in jeopardy and what have you. But we're all jonesing to ride, and then it's like we've been in contact with Tim. And Tim's like ready to go on his next adventure, which, I'll let him tell you about that some other time. But, we're just, everybody like you guys are just like ready to go, so.
Dude, I know. I was like talking to Molly last night on Instagram, your daughter. She's like, hi, Molly. And she's like, Ash, you should come. So we were talking about me sneaking over there. I'm like, is that responsible? Can I pull that off? I don't know. It's so hard. Hi, Molly.
Hi, Molly.
Hi, Tim.
Yeah, it's
Still
a
getting
family
after it in the mountain
affair.
bike?
What's
What?
that?
Are you still getting after it in the mountain bike?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I brought it.
yeah, they were out shooting yesterday.
Dude, we
Well,
gotta.
Well, that's not allowed in California.
No, it's good here. It's definitely different from other states, but we're just moving forward, and it's going to be awesome once we get back to it. So
I think
For
this is
sure.
so interesting that we have, a motorcycle magazine, an international motorcycle traveler and content producer, and a motorcycle gear manufacturer. We're all here on Zoom, stuck at home. Like, how do you even do these things when you can't?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, how do you make a motorcycle magazine? How do you
Right.
travel and capture motorcycle content when you can't fucking ride motorcycles? You can't cross borders. You can't leave your house. This is the
I know.
craziest thing.
Tim, when I think like how weird this is for all of us who like we're in our normal life and now we're in quarantine for the last month or month and a half or whatever, I think, oh my God, it's even crazier for you because you had this jarring experience already of like getting off the bike for a little bit, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go back to the States and take a little break, get my visas and get everything sorted, and then bam, COVID. Like that really was a change of pace. How are you dealing with like the chill?
Yeah, Tim.
It is, but it is for everybody. And I keep saying that
It's true.
it's really hard to feel bad for yourself when you remind yourself that everybody else in the world is suffering inconveniences, small businesses that are going to have to shutter their windows and close their doors. And, I hate to say it, but there's a very high probability motorcycle companies that we are intimate with are going to have
Oh, yeah.
layoffs and make changes to their marketing budget, which are going to affect people like me in Upshift
Well, they
magazine.
freaked
There's going to be changes, and our personal inconveniences with COVID-19 are, everybody's going through the same thing, and that's what I'm reminding myself. The come down is very similar to how it is every time you come back to the real world. The difference now is that the world is experiencing something that we've never experienced before. So I think the fact, in the back of your head, the fact that everyone's going through this actually makes it easier. There's very little room to feel bad for yourself. If you feel bored, everybody else is bored. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you, how do you mentioned at the beginning, the contrast of going from this like insanely high level of stimulation to like the complete opposite of that. Like, what are you doing? How are you dealing with that? Like what does a day look like at your Airbnb? Are you still in plane?
Yeah. So it's so funny, the relationship over here. It started with, finding something affordable, and then turned into a relationship with this mom and dad and their two kids who rip around on KTM 65cc like pit bikes, and the dad building a motocross track for his kids, and Natalia and I are helping out build that track, and they let us take the dirt bikes for rips, and I'm trying to talk him into trying out the big adventure bike. Staying busy, and it's fallen into almost a friendship. And actually, I'm going to move back in. One of the things that I didn't get rid of when I started traveling was a piece of fixer upper that I bought in Washington. So my tenants are moving out, and I guess I'll occupy the house that I own and rent in Washington. And it's just taking it day by day. We have been getting out in the motorcycle, like Chris said. You can't have the Travis Pastrana mentality. I stopped as soon as coronavirus hit. I stopped backflipping my GF between skyscrapers in Vegas. I can't do that anymore. It's too risky. Now, jokes aside, you need to be cognizant of the activity that the behaviors that you're engaging in, so that you don't take up valuable hospital space. We're still getting out on the motorcycles because it's the only mode of transportation, to be honest. But yeah, day by day and staying busy. You make your own adventures, even if it's on foot, hiking, biking, climbing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we all need a reunion soon. Everyone here on this call, and then a few other people who have been on the live chat tonight.
Well, I just gotta say, like, you know, like I've known this for a long time, but people watching, like the biggest thing you can take out of Tim is that he's adaptable. Like, you know, we've thrown situations at him. He's had situations on the road, and it's like, oh man, I gotta work. You know, oh man, I broke my leg on a scooter. I'm stuck in Greece. I don't
know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I would never do that.
Yeah. So, you know, but the you know, like we've never pushed him and vice versa. It was like, yeah, let's just ride this out and see how it goes. And, you know, that's the thing with him. And it's like anybody doing these travels.
Pardon me.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think a lot of drinking is happening right now. This whole thing. The alcohol companies are probably doing that.
Yeah, they are. But, you know, the thing with Tim is like the thing I loved from the beginning was like, yeah, let's just roll with it and see how it goes. And they're not over edited. They're, you know, like Tim's like, oh, let's go through my words. And I'm like, the words look sick to me. They tell the story. Like, we don't need to go through it and make it homogenized, you know, aside from throwing some brands under the bus. I won't say who, but
that's
you know,
one thing I love about you guys, Chris. You take each person, like every contributor has their own flavor. You never try to homogenize, like you said, and you just let people be exactly as they are. And the friendship piece, like that's what you were talking about when you said you don't push him and he doesn't push you. It all comes down to like, these are real human relationships, like real friendships.
Yeah. And there's, you know, obviously bad things happen on the road, and it's like, we want to hear about those because it's not always glory and, you know, gold, you know, so it's like Tim's the perfect guy for that. So, you know, he lets you know like exactly what the situation is. And it's like,
I'm really good at messing things up.
Yeah, he's awesome at that. So, but yeah, it's been great. And it's like, we've learned a lot from him and vice versa. It's like, how do we navigate, you know, like, oh, let's tell these stories. How do we do it? And, you know, we both kind of learned together. So it's been really cool.
So for everyone watching, I've done this a couple of times already, but I'm pasting Tim's Patreon account. This is one way that you can support him, anyone who's still listening. Tim, we all love you. Everyone watching loves you. There were like most of the whole live stream, there were like over 100 people watching. So definitely popular, but we already knew that.
I appreciate that. The Patreon thing, I will take a moment to say something about it. There's a few different ways. There's GoFundMe, which I don't want to tell people how they should. It's really awkward for me growing up in a blue collar family with like work was always there was a solid link between hours of work performed, whether it was in construction or driving a truck or running a snowcat or working at an airport, and an hourly paycheck that you got. So there was always this tangible, I give you this much work, an employer gives me this much money. It was a really, really hard leap to make to like, how do you quantify work as an influencer? I don't even like that word. I refuse to like call myself that. I'd rather be recognized as a photographer and a storyteller. It's a really hard leap to make sometimes to quantify that, not just to like Chris and Simon and Brandon, but like to Mosko Moto, like, hey, I use Mosko gear, and I'm going to provide you with professional photography. How do you quantify that? And I still don't know how to answer that question. And it was especially hard to make a Patreon. And I didn't want to do the GoFundMe because it didn't allow me to give something back. And Patreon, I think, is a good way for anyone listening that might, you know, have a talent to offer. Maybe you make scarves. Who cares what it is? If you have something to offer, Patreon kind of allows you to give something tangible. So it was allowed me to talk about, you know, do photography lessons and kind of tell backstories that
we talked about
that
this when we were
Brandon
in
that. What's
like,
that?
I was saying, I love that instead of just asking people for money, you're like offering something. Like people ask you the same questions thousands of times. So you're like, okay, well, if you really want an in-depth answer to that, to how to use your camera more efficiently, how to travel with your camera, how to carry it, how to take photos, like here, do this. So you're providing something for the community, for everyone watching. Patreon isn't, you're not just like giving, it's not a GoFundMe.
Yeah, and it's worth acknowledging that. And again, I want to be really careful about criticizing anyway. You know, if someone figures out how to make it work for themselves, that's awesome. And we all do it in different ways. But I really struggled with making that leap for a while. And I feel like Patreon is the balance between giving back and also people messaging me and being like, hey, dude, what's your PayPal? I want to send you money for no reason whatsoever. And it's like, I can't do that. It just doesn't mesh with my work ethic. So Patreon seems to be the middle ground, and it's something, you know, I encourage a lot of people to look into if you have something to offer. But thank you for mentioning that, Ash.
Of course. And you want to know something funny? So when you first, I like, the way my brain works, as soon as you mentioned GoFundMe, I was like, oh, he has a GoFundMe too. I didn't think he did. I went down this whole rabbit hole by myself, like in my head, as soon as you said GoFundMe. So I typed into Google, Tim Burke GoFundMe, and I found this account that that is called, what does it say here? It's help support in a pickle restaurant employees. And I almost pasted that into the chat because a guy named Tim Burke is raising money for a pickle restaurant.
Yeah.
And I literally almost pasted
What?
that.
That sounds awesome.
Hold on. What's crazier about that is that is my hometown. Totally coincidental. That is my hometown.
Wait,
and
what?
Hold on a second. Yeah, Waltham, Massachusetts. In a Pickle is owned by a dude named Tim Burke. They had an incident where one of their cooks from the restaurant was spying on women in the bathroom. So when you search, Tim Burke Waltham, the owner had nothing to do with it. This dude Tim Burke had nothing to do with it. But when you search Tim Burke Waltham, Massachusetts, which is my hometown, this incident of a peeping Tom comes up, and I'm like, oh God, I don't know what
Oh,
it's so funny that you mentioned in a pickle.
Well, that is very strange set of circumstances.
Yes, that was a very, very strange little
Well, Tim's
assignment.
been in a pickle many times, but he's never asked for money. You know, like no matter what, like I just gotta tell people, like he's like, hey man, I'm here. I have some photos. You know, like if you can use it, you know, if you have some money, great. It's like for him, it's never been like, man, I'm gonna hop on a bike and I'm gonna make some money. Like I just gotta say, you know, it's always been like, and eventually, you know, our relationship is built up, and it's like, dude, how can we help you? And
yeah,
you know, obviously people will know just in the last 10 minutes. It's like he's not out there saying, I'm a professional, you know. And I see it every day in emails. I'm a professional storyteller. You know, it's like.
And yeah, he is. And you're so natural, and you go out of your way for the friendships, like you do. And I love that about you. Like at Overland Expo East that year, you drove way out of the way to come out there and see me. And I will never forget that. That was like the best.
That was for you.
That was
I did want to come hang out with you.
Yeah.
I promise I wasn't trying to steal your girl, Pete.
Good luck.
Yeah, true. Guys, we love you. Thanks so much for joining the live stream.
Thank you.
And Chris, we'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
And, thanks
Really
everyone
great.
for
Thanks,
watching.
guys.
I'll talk to you soon, Chris.
Okay.
Tell everybody in the family that I said hello.
You got it. They're all here.
Yeah,
Since I'm now one of your adopted, I'm your adopted child.
Yeah,
I'm part of
pretty
the family.
much.
Tell them all that I say hello.
Uncle Tim.
Bye, guys.
See you, Tim. See you,
Yeah.
Chris.
See ya.
See you, everyone.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.